for okay. Good evening and welcome for tonight's class. We are learning this week is the second portion of the book of Exodus. You can find it on page 319 in the book in the Chumash that you have in front of you. So basically, what happens in this week's Torah portion is very interesting. Last week, which is very unusual, for the Torah to cut off in the middle of a story with a question with no response. Let's see the question. The question starts on page 317, verse 22, the last two verses of last week's Torah portion. And as it reads, first in Hebrew, Vayoshev Moshe el Hashem vayoymar. Moses returns to Hashem, to God. He says, Lama hareoisa la'am hazeh? Lama zeh shlachtoni? Why have you done evil to these people? Why have you sent me? Ume'oz basi el paro ledaber bishmecha heira la'am hazeh. From the time I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he did evil to these people. But you did not rescue your people. That's it. Things are bad. What does God respond to Moses? Hashem says to Moses, now you will see what I shall do to Pharaoh. With a strong hand, he will send them out from his land. That's not an answer. Moses has a question. The question is that things are bad. Things became worse. God doesn't say what happened, and they're explaining himself why did things go bad, and maybe it shouldn't, or maybe you think it's bad, it's actually not so bad. He only tells them, don't worry, I'm going to take them out. And then we're moving into this week's Parsha, where suddenly God seemingly is upset with Moses. He's upset with the way Moses spoke to him. He held himself back a whole Parsha, but now he's upset. Page 319, by Daber and Likkutei Moshe, God spoke to Moses and he said to him, Ani Hashem, I am God. I appeared to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob with the name of Kel Shakai, which is some of God's name, and I never told them the name of Hashem. And I also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land which their children are going to live there. And I also heard the groan of the children of Israel whom Egypt enslaved, and I have remembered my covenant. Therefore, say to the children of Israel, I am Hashem, and I shall take you out from under the burdens of Egypt. I shall rescue you from their service. I shall redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgment. I shall take you to me for a people, and I shall be you, God, or I shall be a God to you. And you should know that I am Hashem, you God, who takes you out from under the burdens of Egypt. What's going on over here? The rest of the story you can read for yourself. Moses comes to Pharaoh with a message of God, and these with the famous 10 plagues begin. 7 of the 10 we're going to read in this week's Parsha. The final 3 and the Exodus is actually going to take place in next week's Parsha. There's a lot going on in this conversation. That God says, I am Hashem, is using the holy infinite name of Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey. And he tells Moses that the original patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, never knew about this name of Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey. You and the people who are going through the Egyptian enslavement will have the ability to relate to that name. What they were told was only my other names, the Aleph Lamed, known as Cain, or the Shin Dalet Yud, called Shakai. Apparently, what comes out from this verses is that if you ask God, what is the purpose of this Egyptian enslavement? What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to accomplish? There's an answer. Know what the answer is? You are going to know now the name of my name, Yud Vavke. Till now, nobody knew that name. But you are going to find out about it. It's worth it to be in Egypt, to go through the backbreaking work, the slavery, the bitterness of Egypt, but you're going to find out something about God that no one ever found out before. So this is one part of this story. Second part of the story is he tells them what is going to take place. And he uses 4 different expressions how the redemption is going to happen. In other words, when it says in the Torah 4 different expressions of redemption, it's not, it's like looking to somehow make an impression. So he was using this word, and then he found a fancier word about redemption. And maybe yet an even fancier word, and that's how they all come out. If the Torah uses 4 expressions of redemptions, it means there are 4 different stages. There are 4 different types of redemption, 4 different segments of redemption, which one is not related to the other. And we have a special rabbinic institution, which is recorded in the Talmud and codified in Jewish law, and celebrated every year on Passover. And what do we do by the Seder night? We drink 4 cups of wine. And the Talmud tells us that the 4 cups of wine corresponds to the 4 expressions of redemption which God tells Moses in regard to the Exodus from Egypt. 4 different expressions. And the 4 cups of wine cannot be drank simultaneously. Every cup has an order, how to drink it. I know that Pesach was a long time ago, but it's not so long from now that we are going to celebrate Passover. We are ready this week, blessing the month of Shvat. Then comes the month of Adar, Purim, then comes Pesach. That's it, 2.5 months from this coming week. It's Passover already again. Each cup has its own program, its own order. On the first cup, we say Kiddush. On the second cup, we relate the story of the Exodus called the Haggadah. On the third cup, we recite the blessing after the meal, Birkat Hamazon. On the fourth cup, we say Hallel and Nishmas and Hoidu. We praise and thank God. If somebody would have taken a cup of wine and drink it up, and fill up another cup and drink it up, and take a third cup and drink it up, or a fourth cup and drink it up, he has to drink 3 more cups. The original 4 is considered 1 because there was no interruption in between, and there was no separation between the cups and the specific things that you have to do on each and every cup. As the Gemara says, Kol chad v'chad mitzvah bifnei atzmai. Each one of them is a mitzvah on its own. And this is how it relates in regard to the 4 expressions of redemption. In regard to the 4 expressions of redemption, so the first word is what? Ve'otzeiti. Ve'otzeiti means I shall take you out from under the burdens of Egypt. What does it mean, taking you out? So our commentaries tell us, Rabbi Mordechai tells us, it doesn't mean that you're going to leave Egypt. I'm taking you out under the burdens of Egypt, indicates that the slavery, the hard work will end while you will still remain in Egypt. Matter of fact, according to tradition, the Talmud teaches us that Rosh Hashanah, which is 6 months before Passover, is when the slavery ended. They only left Egypt 6 months later. But on Rosh Hashanah, Batla Avodah Me'aviseinu B'Mitzrayim. On Rosh Hashanah, the Talmud says, was already the end of their hard work in Egypt. And that end of this hard work, that is when the expression of the Otzeiti, I would take you out, is the first stage of redemption. According to Orach Chaim, according to Sforno, which is all classic commentators of the Chumash, they say that it started at the first of the plagues. When the plague of blood, which is the first plague, took place, that is when we had experienced the end of the 210 years. Amongst them, the last 86 years, which was the most difficult years, of very, very difficult, back-breaking work, came to an end, according to the Orach Chaim and the Sforno, when the first plague began, the plague of Dam. This is V'otzeiti. This is the first stage of redemption, which has its own individual, respectful cup of wine to celebrate and to praise and to thank God for that segment. On top of that comes stage number 2. What does the verse say? I shall take you out from the under the burdens of Egypt. Then comes stage 2. I shall rescue you from their service. Rescue is the verse say V'hitzalti. Hatzala. Hatzala in Hebrew means what? Rescue. Which means, according to the commentators, Rabbi Mordechai says that this is when they actually left Egypt. Sorry, didn't leave Egypt. Rabbi Mordechai says they were not anymore under the control of Egypt. When did it happen? So the Sforno says it happened when they left Egypt. They came to Ramses before the splitting of the sea. Coming to Ramses, that marked, okay, out of the control of Egypt. Meaning, it's not stopping to work. Stopping to work already happened earlier. But you stop to work, but you're still under the government of Egypt. You still have to pay taxes to Egypt. You're still under the fear that Egypt is dominating you, right? But when you come out of the borders of Egypt, that is called Itzalti. This is called being rescued. Matter of fact, the Orach Chaim says that the Itzalti, being rescued, is even while being in Egypt, even though they stopped working hard, but their mentality was so programmed to be a slave that they couldn't really stop working. They kept on working for the Egyptians, not very difficult work, but light types of work, smaller types of work. They still kept on going. They couldn't realize, they couldn't even appreciate personally that we are not asked to do anything. They still felt like we are still, that's called building in a slave mentality. You can get out of it. So V'hitzalti means, according to the Orach Chaim, that they not only stopped working the hard work, but they even stopped working the small types of work. They basically stopped working for the Egyptians altogether. But even more, according to many commentators, it means out of their control. That's it. I'm a man on my own. But as we all know, you can stop working as a slave. You can even leave the country, but as long as the country is in full force and the people who enslaved you are still in control, you keep on looking back. Are they still after me? In Kfar Chabad, which is a Chabad village in Israel, not far from the Ben Gurion airport, was a very great Hasidic Jew, which I even happened to knew. His name was Rabbi. He was from the few Hasidim who left Russia, lived in Kfar Chabad, came to the Rebbe, had children here in America, and he still was worrying that casket, that Russian dashik. Yemen and the Futafas, they were very good friends. At Berkechein, I heard from people from Kfar Chabad, used to walk Kfar Chabad, Israel. He walked the shul. We always kept on going. What are you looking for? Are they coming? He lived such a challenging life back in the Soviet Union, where they were looking for him. Then he moved to Samarkand, and he did and there, but he was living in such fear that when you walked on the street, you got the tendency of looking behind your back, is somebody behind me. And now that he's already for years in Israel, in Kfar Chabad, what is he still looking for? He still cannot stop his motion of looking back. Are they coming? Are they coming? It's a fear. When did the Jews feel freed from Egypt? This is the third term. Tzeti vega'alti, actually, redeeming. Redeeming you, all commentaries say, Rabbi Mordechai, the Orachaim, the Sforno, the Ramban, Nachmanides, they all say that took place at the splitting of the sea. What happened at the splitting of the sea? The splitting of the sea, which we're going to read in 2 weeks from now, it actually happened a week after the Exodus. Exactly a week, 7 days after the Exodus, is when the splitting of the sea, the Red Sea of Reeds, took place. Kriyat Yam Suf. What happened then? It's not only that the Israelites were able to cross it, but the Egyptians who chased after them ended up following them. And as the last Israelite walked up, the water took an immediate natural response and went back to his normal course, and they all drowned. That's when they experienced Ga'alti. Then is when they experience being redeemed. What is the fourth expression? In verse 7, I shall take you to me from a people. At which point will we taken to God as a people? At Sinai. So again, all the commentators say this is already 50 days after the Exodus. But basically, it's very clear in the reading of the verse and in the explanation of the commentators that when God says to Moses in one breath, so to speak, I'm going to take them out, redeem them, take them. Hold on. God is not just using, words, repetitive words, because he's excited about the redemption. Every word is his own period. Every word is his own segment. Every word is his own level. 4 words, 4 different stages. One building on top of the other. Almost a year before they left Egypt, I'm taking you out from the boundaries. You're not going to be slaves. A year later, you're rescued. 7 days later after the Exodus, now you're redeemed. They're dead. The government clapped. There's no more covenant. It's over. I saw people who came out of Russia. Like I told you, Berkechein, many of them. They were still like living in America for 40, 50 years. In their mind, that's happening. They're coming after me. I left with false passport. They're going to cut me. They're gonna come. What?
PTSD.
Whatever it's called, they're gonna come. What is PTSD? It's not paranoia. It's called taking the Jew out of Russia, but not taking Russia out of. I'm using Russia as an example because that's the closest thing that I can relate to of things people who went through an Egyptian experience 7 years.
It would have to be old people and women, yeah.
The young people maybe not so because they weren't going through the 30s and the jail and the imprisonment and their father being taken to Siberia and their schools being closed and their mikvahs and their schools. And obviously the younger generation who grew up in the 70s and the 80s, it depends. If you wanted to go to Israel, if you wanted to experience Judaism, it's important, then it was with fear. The others, I know very nice people from the former Soviet Union, Jewish people who feel that they lived a good life. They went to the park and they played. And until the point when somebody called them Jew, and then it was all over. Sometimes it came up. So indeed, I'm not discussing Russia coming. I'm using it as an example because that's what we live. That was my teacher. That was my mentor. The people I was surrounded with. And look, here in Seattle, there was a Jew who went to World War II. And David knew him, Chaim Gatlet, right? He was the Chazan, he was the cantor of Ashkenazi Bikur Cholim. He went to the war. He was a very special kid, a very nice person. And was driving on the freeway on the I-5. So sometimes you have those, what do you call it? You have like a line of army trucks are going on.
Oh, convoy.
A convoy.
Army
Convoy was going probably to it was Olympia,
Fort
whatever, Fort Lewis. And he's sitting in the car and he says, you see like something is going on. The convoy, how many times did we bump into those convoys on the I-90 or on the 405? And you see them and we don't even think twice, whatever, they're moving trucks, they're getting reorganized. I have no idea.
They're going for exercise.
Exercise, but no one thinks that because we see that, so my heart starts pumping. Who knows? The missiles are coming. Korea is pumping. Nothing. Whatever. You see what you see, you move on. But for someone who went through the war, he was running from city to city, and when he sees army trucks are making their way around, for him it's like reliving an experience which gets them nervous. So this is what we see clearly also. It's interesting that the first 3 stages are mentioned in one verse, verse 6. The 4th is mentioned in verse 7. But clearly they indicate 2 separate programs. The first 3 is letting us out of Egypt, taking us out, redeeming us, rescuing us. As the 4th one would we become God is not just be Egypt, we are done. Now I'm instilling in you a new gift, a new personality with it. I'm making you my people. That was happened at Sinai. God gave us the Torah and he declared, you are going to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. That's it. That's all different. It's more than just getting out Egypt. It's like rebuilding the person into a new entity. This actually explains one of the great rabbis of Jerusalem. So he gave out a commentary on the Agada, Professor Agada. He says something beautiful. He says, I understand that the rabbis wanted to celebrate each expression, and that's why we have a cup of wine for each one individually. But why necessarily wine? Like somebody brought me today, 4 cups, we get you drunk, right? It's a little too much. I mean, when you drink it in the length of a Seder, it's very difficult to get drunk. Then at least an hour between one cup and the other. But what's wine? Why not 4 oranges, 4 cups of orange juice, apple juice? He says like this, When you have, for example, a fruit, take any fruit, take an apple. You have the first apple. You're hungry for an apple. How does the first bite of an apple taste like? Machai, perfect. And then you have a second bite. It's also good, not as good. And the third, again, decreasing, right? Diminishing the excitement. By the fourth, you're almost about to give up on the apple already. That's what happens to food. As more you eat, the less exciting it is. The opposite is with wine. You drink a cup of wine, good. Second cup, even better. And as more you drink, you realize how tasty it is and how great it is to have wine, right? That's why people have to watch themselves when they get involved with wine, not to get overdone. With food, you know it's going to happen. How much can you eat today? And have to stop. With wine, you got to worry. Why do you worry? But that's the nature of it. It brings joy, happiness, and the happiness keeps on increasing with each cup. There's Rabbi Auerbach of Jerusalem says the same thing is with here. What is the Torah? What are our sages? What is their interest? Their interest is for us to realize how every expression of redemption is greater than the preceding one, greater than the previous one. That can only be symbolized in wine. Because only with wine you feel how you keep on growing, how you keep on enjoying a greater taste. So in order to celebrate the strong expression, that's what wine comes about. That is the insight into the matter. But I want to talk a little bit tonight is another aspect of the four cups. And this has to do, first of all, with a very basic concept which is being discussed, first of all, in the Mishnah, in the Talmud, the Alter Rebbe in Tanya and Chassidus puts a tremendous emphasis on the idea of the exodus from Egypt and how to relate to it on a daily basis. We have a verse, not only one verse, we have many verses in the Torah which keeps on telling us that we have a mitzvah to remember every day that we came out of it. Not everything you have to remember every day. You say the Shema every single day, twice a day. Ani Hashem Elokechem, Asher Hotzeti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim. You got to remember that you left Egypt. Torah commands us, Leman Tiskor Et Yom Tzedcha Me'eretz Mitzrayim, Kol Yemei Chayecha, all the days of your life, you have to remember the day that you left Egypt. That's the ruling. Maimonides, that's the ruling of one of the two Shlosh, Shulchan Aruch, that every single Jew has to remember every single day, twice a day. But it says, Kol Yemei Chayech, all the days of your life, means not only the days, but also the nights. That's why we say Shema every morning and every evening. In the Shema, we also say a paragraph which mentions the Exodus. It allows us to remember every single day, twice a day. It's a biblical commandment, by the way. People think that it's only once a year, Passover, I'm going to sit with the family and talk about the Exodus. Absolutely not. Passover is more extensive. We have to talk and elaborate. Throughout the year, it's enough to remember. When you say one short statement in the morning and one short statement in the evening. But it is halachically required to remember every single day, as the Mishnah tells us, Bechol dor vador, in each and every generation, Chayav Adam, a person is obligated, not only to remember that you left Egypt. Lirot et atzmo, you have to look at yourself as if I left Egypt. It's not a story that happened to my ancestors. I came out of Egypt. How can a story, what happened over 3,300 years ago to our ancestors, impact me 3,300 years later, today, 2023, Bellevue, Washington. What does my Elter Bubba's Exodus have to do with my life today? What does it mean? So there is all kinds of insights. Obviously, when we left Egypt, we became a people, we became free people. The experience of freedom is only from Egypt. But every day you wake up and you realize that you're a free person, you can make choices. Where does it come from? Because the ancestor left it. And leaving Egypt gave us the quality called freedom. Before we left Egypt, we were subjects to slavery. And now we are free. But that doesn't mean that I left Egypt. Am I leaving Egypt today? My father left Egypt. My father left Egypt. I didn't leave Egypt. I'm here. I was born here. What does it mean when it says that every single day you have to remember and you have to live with the fact that you left? The Alter Rebbe, Shneur Zalman, discusses it in great detail in 2 chapters of Tanya, chapter 46, chapter 47. What Alter Rebbe says is very strong, very powerful. He says the whole idea that the Torah wants you to remember that you left Egypt is in order for you to realize how much God loves you. And that will remind you how much you have to love God. And this is what he says. There is a very famous verse written by King Solomon. It talks about love. And what does it say? Kamayim apanim lapanim ken lev ha'adam la'adam. Just like looking into water. So the water reflects your face. Face looks into the water, and what is the reflection? Your own face. So too is the heart of a person to another person. When you give them your heart, it will reflect your heart back. Says the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, when we were in Egypt, in the slavery of Egypt, boundaries of Egypt, nations of Egypt, God coming down to Egypt, personally, didn't send no messenger, didn't send no representative, like you say in the Passover Haggadah, right? He himself came down to take us out of Egypt. He's use imagination, you said. Imagine the greatest of kings goes down to the lowest of places. The lowest, the most scariest place in the worst downtown area which exists on the universe. I don't know the word. I don't think Seattle, but Egypt in that time. But it's very, very bad locations that no one goes there. Everybody knows travel. I traveled to Argentina. They tell you, don't go to that neighborhood. You travel to New York, don't go there, don't go here. Meaning there's places that nobody goes, scared, that is known to be filthy, scary, bloody, who knows what. Dangerous physically, dangerous spiritually. Very, very, very not nice people are, patrolling the streets, you don't want to end up there. God forbid. God himself, the purest of the pure, ends up in the lowest of the low. Egypt was considered, the Torah calls it Ervat Haaretz. Ervat Haaretz is not translated in any language. They call it the depth of the earth, the nakedness of the earth. What else? Like, okay, what does that mean? It's a word that then you don't want to use any other word because it's still not going to define what it is, so you call it Ervat Haaretz. God says, Tanya, came down to the very lowly place and picked you up by your arms, and took you out. Can you imagine a greater level, a greater expression of love than that? Then you are to respond. When somebody shows you his heart, your heart responds to him back. You love me, how can I not love you? As the Alter there is an Egypt today. There is an Egypt today. Egypt is not a historical story from 3,000 years ago. This morning you woke up in an Egypt. Who is the Egypt? And who is the redemption? Egypt is your body. Your body is a small Egypt. Why is it an Egypt? So the idea of Egypt is confined, limited. And the body, by nature, not by any reason of anything to be bad or something, is by nature defined as something which controls and limits your soul of experiencing what your soul wants to. The soul is godly, spiritual, the body is mundane, physical, and that shidduch, that marriage, is a marriage which takes place every single day, right? From the moment we get up until the moment we go to sleep, and continue while we are sleeping, is an exile which the soul experiences in the Egyptian confined, limited place called the body. So what do? You want to get out of Egypt. Nobody wants to be stuck in Egypt. So God gave us tools, opportunities to leave Egypt every single day. Get up and you do a good deed. And a good deed doesn't necessarily mean some religious activity. A good deed can simply mean to wake up, to make sure that the child goes to sleep. You get up, so you go to work, you should be able to support your family. You'll be able to give stock. Obviously, you go to die. Obviously, you're putting on tefillin. Obviously, you're doing a good deed to somebody else. All this is miniature exodus. Keep on escaping the limitations of your body and connecting with the infinity of God. Your soul takes dominance. Your soul is fully experienced while being in your body, working with your body. It's even a greater achievement than leaving Egypt. Egypt, they had to leave. They couldn't even stand it for one moment. We have an opportunity being in Egypt and transcending Egypt. In it and hovering it by those conduits following the orders which the Torah gives us how to live a life of meaning. So you woke up this morning and you realize that God gave you an opportunity to get out of Egypt. So he loves you by giving you the opportunity. It obviously brings about a love to him. Thank God, I have you. I'm not stuck. Thank God, I'm not stuck. That's called Yetziat Mitzrayim. So this is a general concept, but like I said, if you study chapter 46 and 47 in Tanya, you're going to find this idea being discussed in great length by the Alter Rebbe. He actually even says there that every day you say the Shema, you're escaping Egypt. He says, even if you don't do anything, by wanting to escape your limitations of your body, by wanting to escape the darkness of this world, you're already attaching yourself to that which is higher and greater. You already left Egypt. This is all the gift of the Exodus that we have with us. But now let's take it to the four expressions of redemption. How is that being materialized today? So, the Alter Rebbe, Shner Zalman, writes, there are 4 cups of wine every single day. Not have to sit down and physically drink 4 cups of wine, but you can go through the 4 stages, and you have to go through the 4 stages of redemption every single day. He quotes the verse in Tehillim. King David says, stay away from evil, do good, seek out peace, and pursue it. Remember the verse? Sur Merah, Asay Tov, Bakei Sholom Verotzfei. Seek out peace and pursue it. And he says this is the 4 stages. What is stage number 1? What did God tell us? What was stage number 1? I'm going to take you out from what? From the bondage of Egypt. What is the Hebrew word? Sivlot. Sivlot means from the load, the pack, the heaviness of Egypt, right? Sabal. Someone who carries heavy bags is called in Hebrew Sabal. He says that's the first stage. A person who, God forbid, was involved in negative behavior. Cup number 1, stage number 1 is to get out of it. You have to clearly resolve, I don't want to be a part of it. This is stage 1. Every day. He says that's why it's called the heaviness of Egypt, the boundaries of Egypt, he says, because the definition of holiness is being light. You are alive. You feel light. A person is alive. Alive is much more lighter than a person who's dead. Right? Many times I help carrying caskets at funerals. And it's heavy. Yeah, they have 7 people, the same person, one person will able to pick up something like 7 people. Why? When you lose the soul, you become heavy. A soulless life is a heavy life. That's called Sivlot Mitzrayim. This is stage 1. You can't start up before you decide, I'm keeping away from evil. Just like that, stage 1 was, take Kolat and save it. Then comes stage 2. A state of stage 2 of leaving Egypt is involving yourself in doing good deeds. And he is using something very interesting, Kabbalistic, that the word for rescue, which is the second stage of the Exodus, is called Hitzalti. Hitzalti is the same word of tzel. You know, tzel in Hebrew means a shadow. When a person does a mitzvah, you bring on yourself a light of God which covers you and covers you like a shadow, a shade. Tzel. Comes your shade. You shield and you shade, and that's why also in Hebrew, tzel is the word hatzalah. The shade protects you. The mitzvahs you do, the good deeds you do, that shade becomes your protection. It's like the iron dome, that saves you. Make sure that the arrows are not hitting you. That's the second stage. So stage 1 is what? Getting out of the boundaries of Egypt. Remove yourself from that. Stage 2 is to get involved in good. Aseito. What's stage 3? Seek out peace. The Alter Rebbe says seek out peace means to study Torah. That's the third expression. I shall redeem you. When is a person redeemed? Who is the truly free person? The one who preoccupies himself with the study of God's Torah. God's Torah is the infinite wisdom of God. If you, wherever you are, connected to that, you are experiencing freedom. You're out of your limitations. So that's God's wisdom. So this is with the third expression of the Exodus, parallels to the third personal journey of our own Exodus from our personal people. And then comes stage 4, I shall take you to me as a people. This is when you are essentially united with God to a point that your life is completely centered around it. Even Torah, after all, you're using your understanding, limited mind. Then is when you are devoted in your essence, sacrifice. So clearly we see that leaving Egypt is not a historical event which took place 3,300 years ago. There is a personal exodus with the 4 different expressions of redemption, the 4 stages that has to happen. It could happen, it happens every single day. You don't drink a cup of wine, but if you keep yourself away from doing something wrong, cup 1. You're doing a mitzvah, cup number 2. You learn Torah, cup number 3. You devoted yourself, you gave yourself over to God, something above any limitations, cup number 4. We have a Seder night every day. There's a very, very famous verse, which unfortunately part of the verse gets abused in the world out there. A verse in Isaiah. The prophet Isaiah says as follows: Ki nar Israel ve'ohaveu. Israel, my young lad, and I love him. Mitzrayim karati lebni. And from Egypt I called my son. This is a verse. I think it's chapter. Mitzrayim karati lebni. From Egypt I called you my son. And the Rebbe brings previous Rebbe's very, very interesting insight into this verse. The literal translation of the verse is, Israel is a young lad, and I love him. And from Egypt, I called you my son. Meaning, after Egypt, he came to the giving of the Torah. We were called the sons of God, like the verse 7. Beni, Chori Israel, you are my firstborn son, Israel. Why is it from Egypt? You called him my son. What is that connected with being a lad that I love? Alter Rebbe, it's a Machzedek, they all explain. The Rebbe once spoke about it, right? And he spoke about it. Explained it as follows: Na'ar means a young lad. There is a behavior which is referred to as acting young and foolish. Never heard the expression young and foolish? That is in Hebrew called mitna'eken na'ar. Ma'aseh na'arut. Na'arut means like behaving like very unfaithful, very uncommitted, very disrespectful. What does Hasidus explain? Kinar Israel ve'ohaveu. Israel is a beloved child to God. And sometimes they behave like a young lad. And the father says, please don't do it. But you know that father loves me and I love him. So you keep on testing him. I'm behaving again the way I want, not the way my father wants. At some point, today it's a little more sensitive, we live in a new world. But in the traditional world, at some point the father says, you know what? You can't do it. If you want to do it, you get out of my house. I disown you. I'm not my father anymore. The child realizes it's time to buckle up. And says, no. I'm not ready to take it. It comes to a point that you're ready to chase me out, to disown me as a son. No, I'm not ready. I will behave rather the way you expect it to be. I'm going to stop doing this foolishness. So this is what the Rebbe says. Kinar Israel. Israel behaved like a young lad, a foolish young lad. They were available, but he's in love with God, and God loves him. So he doesn't want to get a message. Mitzrayim. But then when the father puts him in a state of Egypt, meaning he takes him out of the comfort of home and he places them in the boundaries of Egypt, Karati lebni. Then is when you call yourself back to say, hey, I'm your son. Yeah, my father. I'm not ready to go anywhere. I'm not ready to go anywhere. What Mitzrayim did, the Jewish people, the original Mitzrayim, was to give us the opportunity to realize that we belong to God. To the point that they kept on calling, right? Tzaku el Hashem, they screamed out to God. There was a call, we want to belong. We don't want to be distant, we don't want to be far, we don't want to be thrown out. And this is what happens in our personal time every day. You wake up, and sometimes you feel stuck. You're in Egypt. Don't worry about it. You're in Egypt, but there's an emergency exit. You have to find it. The exit is simply call out to God, because when you're going to call him, you're going to be reunited. You're not going to be vulnerable. You're not going to be stuck there alone. No one's going to leave you homeless. You're not going to be homeless. We have so many, thank God, opportunities to remain connected. Not only to remain connected, to actually leave Egypt every moment of the day. Okay, we can think about it all day, but we have to live life too. But when you have those moments, remember, it's Egypt, and Egypt has a exit tragedy. There's an exit tragedy from Egypt. And the exit tragedy is resolve to stay away from evil, do good, study my Torah, and Chaim, good to go. That's what it is. One cup of wine, second cup of wine, third cup of wine, fourth cup of wine. First one didn't work, second one will work. And we will be out. We will be out. Look, may Hashem help. Rabbi Mordechai says that the four expressions of redemption, he also related to a verse, also mentions four expressions of redemption in regard to the future redemption. Mashiach comes, he brings a verse. The verse is in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 34. What said, Timina Amim, I will take you out from the nations. The kibatztim min ha'aratzot, I will gather you from all the lands. Ve'adiotim el admatam, I will bring you to the land. Ureitim, and I will pass to you el arei Israel on the mountains. For sure, we're going to have 4 cups of Mordechai. We're going to have 4, but even according to Jewish law, you're only allowed to drink 4 cups on Passover at the same time. But Jewish law said that in the second and the third, you can drink as much as you want. So it's 4 cups with a special program, but with the second and the third, you can have another 10. Doesn't matter, doesn't count. But the 4, how much did you have? 4. What do you mean 4? Identity, what happened with the second and the third doesn't count. That's during the meal. I'm sure that's what's going to happen here. I want to take this opportunity, since this coming week, we're entering the new month of Shvat. Shvat, as it is a famous holiday called Tu B'Shvat, the new year for the trees. We are going to have over here again another beautiful program on Sunday, February 5th, which is the night of Tu B'Shvat. We're going to celebrate Tu B'Shvat, a taste of Israel. We're going to have a special menu by Chef Ori. Brooklyn kosher catering. Music and song along with the twin brothers Michael. You know who they are? You know who they are. Because in Pastor, they come dance with us. Bukharians, actually. You know, Michaeli.
George, oh,
No, these are Bukhari. Yeah. Cocktails. RSVP online February 1st. This is the program.
Yeah, but for 21 and older.
Obviously, what do you mean? When I've actually babies here?
21 and older?
Why? Are you younger than that?
Oh, this, he didn't say alcohol, he said cocktail, it could be a shirt.
No, but he wrote in there that it was.
Cocktails, so we have to be careful. You can't give it, can't have you younger than.
Yeah.
It's legal.
If it has liquor in it, you can make a cocktail without it.
How?
What?
You just spoke about 4 cups. You're already going down to a cocktail without liquor even. I mean, how far
That's
from the
like,
class do you want
that's
to go?
like drinking near beer.
So make sure you join us. It will be a very, very nice evening here. And it'll be good. Thank you very much. Want a flyer? Take a flyer, look it up. Want to invite friends? It'll be even greater.
A non-alcoholic cocktails. Cocktail itself.
Mocktail. Remember when we were
You
kids
can
in
make a
camp, we
virgin
used to have a mock
daiquiri.
wedding.
Yeah, see? That
That's
agrees
my
with
mocktail.
me.
I don't call it that.
A mock wedding we had in camp. Have a wonderful good day. What's your name, young man? Shovang? Where are you from?
So I live in Redmond.
Redmond. You are friend with Ben.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
I see.
All the best. Laila tov, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you very much. Good to see you all.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Sure. As usual. Go for it. You don't feel like answering, that's obviously. Why? If that is the Jewish power, why do you have to go to the Pharaoh? God obviously has the power to do whatever he wants. So why go?